Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. My name is Sharon Florentine. Welcome to today's DevOps.com webinar, 3 Ways a Modern Multi-Cloud Data Platform Can Transform Telco Applications, brought to you by DataStax. I am really excited for today's webinar. I'm sure you are too, but before we get started, I need to go through my usual housekeeping items with you. Just a reminder that this session is being recorded, so if you miss any or all of it, you'll be able to go back and watch it again. You can do that by visiting us at devops.com/webinars, and it will be there, or we'll also send you an email with instructions for how to access the webinar on demand. We are taking Q&A throughout the presentation. You can use the Q&A tab on your webinar console to submit questions for our panelists. We'll get to as many as we can at the end of the presentation. Feel free to use that at any time. Doesn't have to be towards the end. Send your questions in early and often. We are also doing a drawing for 4 $25 Amazon gift cards, so stick around till the end and see if you are a winner. Also, during today's presentation, we will have 3 polling questions for you, so make sure you're on the lookout for those, and we would really appreciate it if you'd take a minute of your time and give us your responses. All right, well, that's it for me. I am pleased to introduce to you David Joy. He's a data architect at DataStax, and Reed Peterson, who's the SVP of Telecom Strategy and Engagement at DataStax. Gentlemen, I'm going to put myself on mute and turn my camera off and let you get right into it.
Great, thanks, Sharon. So first of all, just a quick introduction. Let me just introduce myself. My name is Reed Peterson, SVP at DataStax. I spent about a decade in management strategy consulting before 12 years at the GSMA, Global Trade Association that represents the mobile industry. Led initiatives across technology and strategy and strategic engagement, mostly helping the CXOs work through kind of what their vision of the future was going to be. Let me turn it over to David.
Hey, thank you, Reed. Hi, everyone. My name is David Joy, and I'm based out of Plano, Texas. And I work as a data architect with DataStax, and I've been working on database technology and AI machine learning for almost 7 to 10 years now. And looking forward to having a great conversation today. And I think it'll be a great session. So feel free to interact with us. We want everyone to interact and ask as many questions as we can, so that we can best leverage this webinar today. So thank you, and to Reed.
Thanks, David. So let's get started. Listen, first of all, let me just say, thank you for being here. I know that there's a lot of different places you could be this morning, at least East Coast time. We're glad that you decided to spend an hour with us. We feel like we've got some pretty great, content, some things that we're going to learn today. So just wanted to say thank you, and we appreciate you being here. So let's talk about what we're gonna learn. So today we're going to go through some of the challenges that telcos face. We'll walk through some of what those challenges are, and some of the opportunities that they present. We'll then go through a little bit the architecture and requirements that we think that operators and telcos will need as they roll out 5G and looking at kind of these new opportunities. David's going to give you a demo on Astra, our hybrid database as a service, which is phenomenally easy. And then we'll kind of talk a little bit through some of the use cases that are out there. So welcome, everybody. We see that we've got people from all over the world, so we're glad that you're here. So let's jump in. So first of all, let's talk through some of the challenges. The world is changing. Everything is moving digital, in the cloud, out to the edge, where people are. And that creates these new opportunities, new engagements. And it drives a lot of new use cases, new technologies, artificial intelligence and machine learning, which are already being used today, but are going to be exciting new areas in innovation in the coming years. As you look at digital transformation, data modernization and data management is absolutely critical and a huge piece of this new kind of digital revolution. And all of this, of course, is going to be enabled by 5G. Super excited to see all the different things that are happening in a 5G world. So let's start right off the bat with a little bit of a poll. So get right there. Okay, so poll question goes up. 5G will account for an estimated what % of total mobile data by 2026? And this is according to Ericsson. Guesses in.
There they go. We're working on it.
Working on it.
Working on it. There they come. Now they're rolling in.
So 5G
This
will
was a
account
tough
for.
one. I wasn't sure. Oh, sorry.
So go ahead.
I wasn't sure.
It's still coming through, Reed.
Still coming through. Okay, we're waiting.
Yeah.
And it's pretty close. You're gonna have fun with this one.
All right. That seems like a pretty good response level. I'm going to close that out. All right. Can you guys see the results there, Reed and David?
Yeah, I can see
Do you
it.
want me to read them through? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So we are 54%. For those of you who got it right, 54% of the total mobile data will be 5G by 2026. It's an interesting number because you're talking about a technology that really only launched a few years ago. It's probably one of the fastest proliferating technologies in the history of technology. And so we see some really, really exciting things as 5G rolls out. So this also presents some incredible opportunities, but there are some significant challenges with it, right? As that data, the demand for that data grows, as operators are building out these billion-dollar infrastructures to support 5G and data, they kind of missed an opportunity in 4G. One of the challenges with a lot of the value of 4G, the value of that went to a lot of the over-the-top players who developed products and services over the top of those networks. And so from operator perspective, they missed out a little bit on that. And as it sits today, there's a lot of challenge in them kind of driving new revenues. Revenues are stagnant. So from their perspective, something has to change. And as you look at that, huge data growth with stagnating revenues, they've got to figure out ways to both decrease costs and increase revenues. So let's go to the next poll question. This one pretty simple, but what do you think are some of the key challenges that telcos face with respect to 5G? And we can just throw some of these in the chat. I see we have some people from Cameroon and India. Welcome, guys. What do you guys think? What are some of the biggest challenges that telcos face with respect to 5G?
Yeah, folks, there's not going to be a poll popping up on your screen. So if you have a thought or an answer to this poll question, just go ahead and stick it right there in the chat. Going to do things a little differently and shake it up here. There we go. Thanks.
5G operations, great one. Anyone else?
Can I chime in? I would say disinformation about 5G.
You mean we shouldn't be burning the 5G towers? Maximal energy efficiency, great comment. Massive amount of data. Yeah, so I mean this really is one of the biggest great responses there, guys. These really are the biggest challenges, right? This huge data growth, building out these networks, the cost of building out these networks, especially as you get out into more kind of rural environments. So setting up this infrastructure, is going to be incredibly difficult for operators. They have to build that out. At the same time, they have to figure out how to lower the cost of those networks. The other thing they're going to have to do is figure out new revenue streams, right? So the existing revenue streams of just speeds and feeds and texting and calling and data isn't going to cut it. They have to look at these new ways of monetizing and driving revenue. And then the last one really, I think, is really interesting. It's they have to figure out how to secure that network. And this is a challenge because the network is no longer just on-prem and core. It goes all the way from core to edge. So, as data moves to the edge, telcos need to embrace kind of more software, more different ways of looking at that infrastructure. So these are some of the key challenges that we see today. with that, I think presents some significant opportunities, right? As data moves to the edge, these legacy telco technologies and architectures need to be revisited to look at new ways of doing things, lower their total cost of ownership, drive costs down so that they can drive more value from the existing network assets that they've got, as well as looking at these new revenue generating opportunities, new market offerings in the ecosystem, these new what we call ecosystem threads, where these ecosystems are going to be developing at the edge of the network where people are. Enhanced support for IoT devices and edge computing, in stadiums and venues and smart city services, artificial intelligence and machine learning, edge computing, and connected factories. And all of that is going to have to be protected, like we talked about, from all the way from core to edge. And so, everything from security and authentication and GDPR, privacy. I know in the chat we talked about some of the challenges that the operators and telcos face as they secure those networks. So those are some of the key opportunities that we see happening. And as data continues to explode, monetization is the key. There's almost no way to monetize 5G for mobile network operators without data analytics, data processing, data streaming, data ingestion, and actioning on that data out at the edge of the networks. The data needs to be easily accessible from core to edge. It needs to be easily replicated, and so and that means intelligently replicated. So replicating what needs to be there from all domains of the network. One of the things I think that's interesting when you look at the standards of provisions with 3GPP and ETSI, there are no standards for the provisions of data as you look at that today. And 5G is all about data. It's all about that data at the edge of the network. It's all about the speeds, the lower latencies, the higher throughput. And so that massive amount of data is going to require a new way of looking at how you approach that. And so we see from a data stacks perspective, we see that the developers are key to this, right? So data management used to be data at rest. It used to be about batches and taking the data that you had and analyzing it from that perspective. And now everything is data in motion, analyzing data as it flows across a multi-cloud environment, and that requires a new architecture and infrastructure. And we think that operators and developers play a key role in this. Connect to the database through any API you need, accessing any framework or language that you'd like to use. David, you want to highlight a little bit more in terms of the architecture on this?
Yeah, so we will go deeper into this, fundamental idea that Reed was presenting. But my assessment here, Reed, and to everyone listening, is that on the telco side, it hasn't been more closer to software than it is today. It's not just about the infrastructure, but it's also about like software-defined networks now, right? And you're using servers, and we are trying to apply the infrastructure to be more close to how you would deploy an actual computer, right? And it's more close to that. And because of that, the same experiences that we used to provide in the past are going to change going forward, both in the BSS system and the OSS system, and with what 5G is going to enable, or the network itself, So we'll go deeper into that, architecture. And before I kind of present to you that, I thought it'll make more sense to kind of understand what we as data stacks kind of do in this journey. Reed, any closing comments on this particular slide before I jump on that one?
Yeah, I think one of the keys here is that this obviously we're talking about 5G. We're talking about what 5G is going to enable, but it also is, I think, as you look at everything moving more software defined, kind of this focus on the cloudification and digital transformation. It affects not just 5G new 5G use cases, but also existing OSS and BSS use cases across all aspects of the network. So I'll just end with that.
Awesome. Thank you, Reed. So I'm going to take the next few slides and kind of walk you through, what we at DataStax do to solve these problems in the telco space, and kind of addressing those 3 challenges or 4 challenges that Reed kind of presented to us. At the same time, I will introduce an architecture, an example of how we kind of fit So for everyone, listening, we work for DataStax. DataStax provides to the market an open data stack built on this NoSQL database called Apache Cassandra and Stargate open source API platform. Now, for those of you who have not heard of Apache Cassandra, let me give you a brief history, and it's fascinating because my own story of kind of getting to know Cassandra kind of was through a webinar, kind of listening in on it. So a few years ago, I kind of was trying to figure out how Netflix works, and I was watching a Netflix webinar and kind of got introduced to this term in their ecosystem called Apache Cassandra. And that kind of turned the tubes for me to kind of go and figure out what Apache Cassandra does. So Cassandra actually was a project that started off originally at Facebook about 12, 13 years ago. And around 10 years ago, it got contributed to the Apache Foundation and became one of the top or the leading NoSQL database platforms in the world. It became so influential that today around 90% of the Fortune 100 kind of depend on Apache Cassandra. But here's the reality. It's not just these top Fortune companies, but it includes you as well, me as well. So today, if you listen to music on Spotify, if you tag a photo on Instagram to use an iPhone and do messaging, get a product delivered to your house through FedEx, to order food to your place through DoorDash, all of these ecosystems have Apache Cassandra handling the massive amount of data that is coming through. And to what Reed said and kind of presented to us, as well as some of the comments in the chat were around how do we monetize this scale of data, this amount of data that we are getting, right? You need a platform that kind of enables and handles this scale. And that's exactly what 5G. That's exactly what DataStax provides to the market with Apache Cassandra and Stargate. And one of the reasons why these top enterprises kind of went towards using Cassandra as one of their solutions was because it was the only platform that provided zero downtime, zero lock-in, hybrid capabilities, multi-cloud capabilities with global scale and serverless capabilities. And that's what we are providing. And what you will see today and what I will describe to you is multiple ways of how we meet enterprises solve this problem through our product that is this OpenStack platform. So let's go to the next slide and kind of talk about this particular in the context of telco, right? And let's talk about OSS, BSS. Now, we traditionally know that there are experiences in the OSS space and in the BSS space, such as network optimization, assurance, order fulfillment, route optimization. And on the BSS space, you have billing and payment, CRM, upgrade services, all of these things. But what we are seeing more and more now with 5G is, and the way people have started to interact with their telecom providers, is the fact that everybody wants fast data experiences, right? For example, let's take the case of I have a mobile phone. On my mobile phone, I'm using texting. At any given point, I might stop using texting. I might move to Instagram, watch a video. I might go and watch a high definition video on YouTube. So within the same device, I am moving between different, slices, right? And everybody who's here kind of understands network slicing better than me. But that's just one of the scenarios on the OSS sides that telcos have to kind of deal with. But these fast data experiences have to deal with, data, lots of data getting generated, and everybody is talking about how to monetize this in real time. And having a platform that deals with that becomes critical. So in the 5G network, we see ourselves as fitting in both on the OSS sides in the core as well as on the edge side. And what we can do with our product really is that connect any application, any use case that requires high throughput volume data getting generated that needs to be stored and requires global scale. And this happens, and this is something that we are seeing as a trend growing more and more, where we see more and more use cases where we are involved in the telco with the enterprises. And Reed's going to talk about these use cases as well, where we see us getting involved in this monetizing and enabling 5G, both on the OSS BSS side. So I'll let Reed come in. And Reed, what do you think are the challenges that you kind of presented there and how we solve with this particular flow?
Yeah, so I mean, typically OSS has been more kind of hardware focused. BSS has been more kind of software oriented. However, with I think the introduction of 5G and kind of new innovations and technologies, a lot of telcos are moving towards kind of this comprehensive digital transformation. We talked about a little bit cloudification and software-enabled networks. And so when you look at the opportunities that 5G presents in terms of network slicing, in order to take one aspect of the network and say, okay, at the edge of this network, we're going to provide different speeds, different latencies and bandwidth for different use cases, and splice that network in certain ways. Everything's moving a little bit more software, software-defined networks, network function virtualization, ways that they can kind of manage, all aspects of the network, from core all the way out to near edge to far edge, to the user equipment, all the way to determine different ways that they can manage that, and a lot of it is going to be software based. And so I think because of that, the data that moves across that network, and as they're out in the real world with real people, accessing that data, and that data is coming in and streaming in, I just think it presents a lot of use cases that it'll improve the existing use cases that telcos are already using, but also I think it'll drive new use cases that we maybe haven't even thought of before. And I think that's where it gets exciting, is the opportunity to harvest that data, to ingest that data, to transport that data, to store that data, to analyze that data as it's streaming, to develop models and algorithms on that data that can respond in real time to what's happening out there at the edge of the network. So I think huge opportunities there.
Absolutely. And that's exactly, so you're talking about, Reed, from the perspective of both on the OSS side, as we put all this infrastructure needs to, will generate a lot of data, and that will require operational overhead that can be catered through a database platform like ours, as well as on the BSS side, where as more and more devices end users set up, like their phones or alarm systems or sensors or connected cars, that will generate data too, and will require an infrastructure and an environment that needs a platform like this, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So we have this statement that we say that Cassandra kind of came 10 years sooner than 5G, because the infrastructure that Cassandra provides is basically it's ready for 5G, and so it's sort of like it handles every 5G use case that requires scale, and not just scale that goes vertical, but actually linear, because that's how Cassandra kind of operates. And if we go more deeper into that, we'll kind of understand it. So let me, we were at a high level, at a 10,000 level view. Let's zoom in a little bit more and look at an actual 5G use case and how we kind of fit in that scenario, right? And this is what we kind of come to kind of say, is that we are the hybrid multi-cloud with an open data stack. And here's an example of a 5G IoT use case. And here, what you can notice is that you have on one end, in the top left corner, IoT devices like alarms, lights, sensors, connected cars, and controllers. And they are generating this massive amount of data per second. And enterprises need a way to get this data to develop these fast experiences that users can kind of deal with or use on their mobile app or on their web application. And those are the outcomes, really. So you have sensors deploying this data that uses a telco network, and you have customer end experiences that enterprises are trying to build or monetize on. But how does that infrastructure kind of work, and where do we fit in? So when devices are generating this data, what you will see is there are two things happening. One is that all of this data is streaming in through messaging services like queues and streaming capabilities such as Pulsar, Kafka, or any cloud environment. And then you need to store this data at that speed in real time into a platform that can scale across multiple platforms. So our products, data stacks, Astra, Enterprise, or even open source Cassandra, you can deploy at the same time in AWS, Google Cloud, or Azure. So if you want to have multi-cloud or hybrid capabilities, you can deploy that infrastructure in that particular fashion. You can also deploy it with Kubernetes or with virtual machines. But the fundamental idea is that we provide a multi-cloud and a hybrid platform to ingest this real-time data coming at that speed. So we are talking about 2 to 3 million transactions per second, and you need a platform that gives you sub-millisecond responses. Now, The other piece to this is what Reed kind of presented to us was monetizing that through creating insights, and that's where we kind of work with ETL solutions such as Spark and other like Databricks solutions, where we can get this data out, do some machine learning on top of that, develop insights on top of that, and then if needed, even push some of the data out to a data warehouse where if you want to do dashboards and analytics, you could do that. So that's what we kind of enable. But at the same time, what we are realizing is to develop these customer end experiences that are developing on a mobile phone or on a web platform, folks are actively trying to use APIs. And when we say APIs, the fundamental reason behind that, what we are realizing is that developers don't want to go and learn existing platforms. They don't want to learn a new driver or a new programming language and connection specific to that. They want to use what they already understand. And that's where we have a solution called Stargate, and which is open source, but we have integrated that into our solutions where it comes with baked-in API calls, such as for REST, document, and GraphQL, that allows developers to connect through those endpoints their microservices that they are building to our platform, and that kind of helps them develop these solutions quickly as they try to monetize and build these customer end experiences. So at a high level, we are enabling this global scale problem at zero downtime, because the Cassandra architecture is kind of built for 5G, but at the same time it provides capabilities where there is no downtime. So Reed, I know we have spoken about this a few times. What's your perspective on the fit here?
Yeah, so 5G is fundamentally about fast data, right? Enabling kind of reactive engagement at the point of interaction, and this I think this presents so many opportunities, enabling kind of the art of the possible as we look through how to drive more revenue for mobile network operators. I think we had a comment in the chat. Somebody was asking about OSS and BSS, because we're talking about these different use cases. There are two kind of core parts of a telco business. For those that are a little bit new to this, one is kind of what's considered the OSS side, and this is more kind of the operational aspects of running a network. This is everything from network performance or fault management, provisioning new services, inventory, those aspects, the kind of the core aspects of running a network. And like we said, a lot of that has been traditionally hardware based to date. The second side of it is the BSS side, and that's really kind of more the business side, more the customer facing. These are elements like billing and payments, or service fulfillment, or customer management, order management. These are the different areas of engaging with customers at the point of interaction. So those are kind of two big parts of telco, of the telco business. What's interesting is that we're talking about data stacks and data and data moving to the edge of the network, and streaming data, and we're talking about data replication. We're talking about hybrid and multi-cloud. These things all have huge implications for 5G and what's out at the edge of the network, but also from cloud native OSS system mainframe offload, looking at how to drive new opportunities within the existing management of telco infrastructure. BSS system, data modernization, to support, software-defined networks and network function virtualization. So it really helps with some of the core aspects of running a network today from an OSS BSS perspective, as well as all of these other new use cases that we're talking about in terms of artificial intelligence and machine learning and IoT, et cetera. So I think there's it really is about all of these new use cases and opportunities that are enabled by having access to intelligent data all the way from core to edge, and then being able to do it, like you said, hybrid cloud, multi-cloud, multi-stack. So
yeah, absolutely. And the reality is, and Sarah, you kind of also kind of double down on that fact that it's all about, for enterprises, I mean, they can lay out an infrastructure, but at the end of the day, that associates with a certain amount of cost. But it's all about customer experiences, right? End user experience. How do they feel about using a service, right? And as we know, traditionally in the telco space, there is a lot of churn. Like, folks don't mind moving away, right? So how do we create this stickiness? How do we give experiences where they're like, hey, I have the best network, I don't need to move at all. So we're talking about solving those problems for enterprises, but then fundamental idea is there is an explosion of data, right? And going back to what Reed started off with, 54% of data going forward in the world by 2026 is going to be 5G data. We are talking about a massive amount of data, and when you're trying to create end user experiences, you are going to build microservices. You will not have a monolithic architecture. It will be a distributed architecture where you can develop small segments at a time so that the customers are not affected. We're talking about having applications in a way that they have no downtime, so because a single bad experience can create a churn. So we are talking about solving those problems. So essentially what we are talking about is microservices at a scale, data at a scale across multiple cloud environment, and that's where we kind of see ourselves fitting in the middle of it through our Stargate API gateway capabilities with our products such as Astra Enterprise, DataStax Enterprise, and this is how we're solving that problem. So and we'll take some more questions and kind of come back to this. I just wanted to leave you with this slide. When you think about DataStax, we are meeting enterprises where they are. Of course, we have a solution, an open source solution called Apache Cassandra. We have dedicated engineers, trying to improve that product for folks who want to use open source. But we have other solutions that meet enterprises where they are. So we have DataStax Enterprise, which is our enterprise grade solution, which has got advanced capabilities such as integration with Graph, Spark, and Solar, with monitoring solutions and API gateway all baked into a single platform with advanced security for enterprises who are looking to use an enterprise solution over like just open source. We also have Kubernetes-based flavor, so anybody who wants to deploy Cassandra in a Kubernetes fashion in production, they can use that solution. As we said, Stargate is another open source project that we are actively contributing to. And for folks who use our open source solutions or want to continue using open source but need capabilities around support in case anything happens, we provide our support capabilities. But the tool or the solution that I'm most excited about is DataStax Astra. And that is coming from my own experiences. I used to deploy Cassandra on infrastructure, and I know how much of an operational overhead that can cost. But Astra is our serverless managed Cassandra environment that is actually completely managed services, a managed service. And with just a few clicks of a button, you can set up your Astra environment. You can do exactly what you want to do in your telco space with your particular use case. But at the same time, just deal with developing customer end experiences rather than dealing with, the infrastructure. So I'm going to do a quick, demo. But before we go there, I wanted to ask this question, and it's a poll. What is Apache Cassandra? And this is just to figure out if you guys were listening and what do you feel about what is Apache Cassandra and what really it does. Let's see. And all right, awesome. So that helps me. That means you guys are listening, and that helps a cause. So this is great. Awesome. So let me just quickly share my screen before we get into an Astra demo, and read any other thoughts that you have while I pull that up.
Yeah, while you're doing that, I think open source is one, right? 99% of the Fortune 500 use open source. Open source development has become the new norm. I think the future really is about sharing technology collaboratively and collectively, and to have DataStax products built over the top of Apache Cassandra, which is this open source database that was created by the folks at Facebook and Netflix and Apple. It's wonderful for us because this is where the world is moving, and especially as you get into new innovations and technologies, you have an open source platform, an open source community, but also you've got all of the intelligence and analytics and the way to do that over the top of it. So I think you're going to show that right now with Astra.
Awesome. Thank you, Reed. So you guys have been a great audience. So here's what I wanted to say. We watch carefully for the next 3 to 5 minutes. We have a giveaway for everyone right after this demo. And it all starts with this particular screen. So make sure that you're paying attention. All right. Awesome. So here's the Astra, portal. We actually get to this by this URL, astra.datastacks.com, and you can easily create an account, with your GitHub or Google or any other email by just clicking on sign in or sign up. Here I already have my account, so I'm just going to sign in with my Okta. And as soon as I sign in, I'm actually going to go into the Astra portal, and let me go to my own organization called Partners. And what you see here is the Astra landing page. And on the landing page, actually, what you see is a view of a dashboard. You have information around your current organization. You can have multiple organizations as well. For example, you may have an HR organization within the actual enterprise. You may have developers for a particular project, and all of them baked into a single organization. If you can filter it out as you want it. We have a view for dashboard that you're creating. And over here on the dashboard, it's actually a summary, and it kind of gives you a view of what's exactly happening. So as I was saying, it's very easy to create a database to serve multi-cloud as well as this massive amount of throughput that telco use cases are going to generate. So what we're going to do is just click on create database. We'll click on that. It takes us to this new page where I'm going to create a new database. So I'm just going to call it, let's say, webinar test DB, and I'm just going to create a key space. A key space is essentially a wrapper. It's similar to creating a schema under which you create all your tables, which will house your data. So let's just call it webinar test _KS. And what you can see here is, I'm just going to remove the underscores just so that it looks good. And the value must start and end with an alphanumeric character. Wow. Oh, I think I had a space. There you go. All right. So now I can select a provider or a region. So if you see here, I can select any cloud environment, Google Cloud, AWS, or Azure. I can select any region. So in this particular case, let's just check Google Cloud, and I want to deploy this in maybe North America. So I'll select North America and select South Carolina, US East 1. And that's where I want to start my infrastructure. And all I have to do is click on create database. As soon as I click on create database, all the infrastructure requirements, such as starting the Stargate service and all the other capabilities to create the serverless infrastructure is getting enabled. So as you can see here, automatically webinar test DB is initiated. Right now it's in a pending state. You will see a brown button that shows that this database is kind of getting created. The status is pending. If you come in here, you don't see anything happening. Let me go into an existing database and kind of show you what you will be seeing once it's ready. So let's go into Retail 360 or Telco 360. And this particular platform, as we were saying, it's a serverless platform. So enterprise actually have to only pay for actual reads and actual writes. So for example, if you do 1 million reads and 1 million writes, they or you only have to pay for those reads and write. And what that is doing is it's bringing true cloud economics to this managed platform, because here you don't have an infrastructure that's just deployed and that deployed infrastructure is not getting just up there and not getting utilized. It's actually serverless. Because of that, you're only going to pay for what you're using instead of just paying for the infrastructure that you set up. So that's what happens in this platform. So once you see data flowing in, you will see a read request and write request climb. You will see storage data consumed go high. You will have some data transfer between regions, so you will see some costs associated with that. But it's very negligible compared to the amount of money that you will spend on setting up an actual infrastructure. Now you have AWS information about your provider. So as you can see here, I have AWS. I have some information around this database, and I have some key space information. And here you go. See, as I was talking about this, the webinar test DB that we just started is up. So we'll go back to that platform and see. At the moment, there is nothing over here. But in reality, we will start using this database. But it's so simple that it took just 2 minutes to start. Let's go into the health tab. And health is where we have baked in, monitoring capabilities to monitor the infrastructure, and handle the requests that are getting served. So you will be able to see requests served, write latencies, read latencies, typical to how you typically manage a database environment. But the monitoring is baked into the UI and the platform itself. And then we have connect information. And as I was saying, and I was introducing Stargate. Stargate is our API gateway that has baked in document API, GraphQL API, and REST API with endpoints available that developers can use to connect to this platform. So all the information on how to connect to this environment, it's kind of curated specifically for your database with its cluster ID and region information, and including the key space ID that we have created here. It's already here. Developers can copy paste and start developing prototypes or actual applications for production. We also have drivers available for those trying to develop applications in Java, Python, or C++. Again, integrations available with Spark and HTTP IE for developing webhooks. They've also integrated a SQL console. A console essentially is an interactive platform where you can come in and just describe your key spaces, do your select statement, insert some data for prototyping, and multiple ways to just interact. So this is a console that we've integrated. At a high level, we have tried to solve the problem of folks trying to deal with the challenges that they typically have by infrastructure management, at the same time paying for reads and writes over just deployed hardware that is not getting utilized to the optimal. We have also baked in capabilities for loading data. So if you want to just develop a prototype, you can upload a CSV or load your own data over here. So with that, I will stop sharing, and we are going to go into a quick giveaway, and that giveaway is going to come up on the next slide. Awesome. And let me just bring the slides up. And the giveaway really is that we're going to open this platform to have a quick sign up. So anybody who signs up in the next 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 to 3, 5 minutes, and the first 3 people who sign up will get a $300 credit applied, or we'll send you a promo that you can apply to it. And
can I sign up, David?
Yes, you can sign up to read, but you'll have to use another email ID. And here's the thing: if you can use your official email IDs that way, or the email ID you use to register for this webinar, that will be easy for us to kind of track, and we will send you an email out. So it starts now, and let's address some questions that we have maybe while people sign up, and we'll open it up for 3 minutes. Awesome.
Great. So in terms of some of the questions on there, David, I've got a question. You literally just opened up a 3-node cluster while we were watching that. As we I mean, what are some of the things you could have done with that?
Yeah, I mean, so a few of the things that I would typically do with that, if I'm just doing prototyping rate, is that I would use a load data capability to load a CSV, or put some data in through Spark or any existing legacy database like Oracle, pull that data into our environment and start building applications out, and that's what you can do. So when you do a simple 3-node cluster, and I forgot to mention one thing, is that the Astra platform is actually free for everybody. Anybody who signs in the platform gets a $25 recurring account in recurring bill that you don't have to pay, that we will handle. And what that allows you to do is develop your prototypes, up to 40 gigs of data and almost 5 million transactions. That will allow you to, at every month, come back in, develop your prototypes. All of those things are available for you, and it's free.
So basically, $25 credit, monthly credit for anybody who signs up for Astra, and you can manage small applications just by using that.
Exactly. You could do that, and it's recurring. That means every month it'll get updated.
I like it. And so $300 is quite a bit of data.
$300 is an year's worth of credit for everybody on the call.
Ooh, so, I like it. I like it.
So, and I think we have another minute, and we have a colleague of ours who's on the call, Chris, who's going to manage it, and we're going to send out an email. Let's see if we have any other questions. So there's one question.
I see a question on how are you going to solve security issues with 5G access, data access control. One of the things that we talked about a little bit earlier, which I think is really, really important, is the intelligent replication of data. across all domains of the network. As you look at different regions and different countries that have different rules and regulations, or if there's pieces of your network that you don't want data replicated across, DataStax gives you the opportunity to go in and to set parameters around what data gets shared and where it gets shared. So there could be some areas that are off limits, could be some areas that you want to kind of partition off. It allows you to kind of intelligently control and manage that network so that data is intelligently replicated wherever you need it and whenever you need it. So that helps with some of the access control issues that we're looking at.
Right. And I think there was another question around, are we also going to get swag from this webinar? No swags, but $300 of credit, that's more than the swag. So sort of go ahead and do that. We got another question that says, will Astra expand to more regions and cloud providers? Absolutely. At the moment, we have it on 3 of the key cloud environments. It's going to expand to more cloud platforms as well as more regions. So in the Middle East region, as well as the Asia Pac, you will see more regions coming. Awesome. So before we kind of come back and address those other questions, feel free to keep signing up because we might give more giveaways. So please sign up and use Astra. And if you have any questions, we'll take it towards the end. I'll hand it over to Reed at this point.
Great, thanks, Dave. Great job. Great job. I think that kind of helps us see how easy it is, right, to spin up this database. I'm not a database guy, but being able to see this and do this, in real time, I think is pretty great. So let's get into some of the use cases here. So when we look at some of the media and telco use cases, I mean there are so many different things that we could talk about here. We can talk about kind of some of the OSS business cases, kind of network performance. We do a lot of great work on kind of within Verizon's network to help on root cause of network performance issues and network alerts. Telstra, network performance challenges as well. Some audit and quality of service as you look across different networks, but also activation and provisioning. I think one of my favorite use cases is always talking about T-Mobile. We started working with T-Mobile in about 2017. They wanted to leverage DataStax Enterprise because they needed kind of a high availability and security features for kind of a critical payment application. And obviously we know T-Mobile has over 100 million subscribers. They wanted to be able to pay any way that they wanted to, right? In store, over the phone, in app, on website. We basically worked with T-Mobile to provide kind of this highly available solution that allowed them to process transactions faster, modernize their stack, and reduce costs as compared to Oracle. Our partnership with T-Mobile has expanded into numerous use cases, and including application messaging, activating accounts, supply chain inventory. Every iPhone that's launched, goes through DataStax. It's gotten so well with T-Mobile that we actually have established a Cassandra Center of Excellence with them. And so all lines of business and business partners that want to deploy new applications turn to the center for help or upgrades or application maintenance as it goes across. One of my favorite use cases of starting out with something small, a small use case, and building and growing into other things. So some great use cases in terms of OSS and looking at the operational aspects of the network, inventory, authentication, but also on the BSS side as well, looking at the billing and payments, looking at kind of customer management, proactively reaching out to the customer with solutions when certain events are triggered, right? So that data that's streaming across will allow you to recognize when that's happening. And so you have a data repository that aggregates multiple interactions with the customer, and so you can tell if there's dropped calls or billing problems or overages. And so, it intelligently reaches out to customers to improve their experience, and obviously providing, recommendations or things like that. And so lots of different ways to use this real-time data. So I think there's some great use cases there. In terms of some, additional kind of 5G, IoT and streaming use cases, we do a lot of work with some IoT platforms. Bouygues in France. We help run their Genius IoT platform do some hotspot coverage with Comcast and IoT sensor data with Verizon. Lots of different opportunities to have that data that's out at the edge of the network and analyze that streaming data. So I think there's a number of different use cases that are really, really interesting in terms of deploying this. But also there's use cases that we haven't even begun to think about. And I think that's where it gets really exciting, is to think, what would you do with real-time streaming data that can be accessed intelligently across all aspects of a network. It gets really exciting when you're starting to look at some of those pieces. So I think those are some of the use cases that we wanted to highlight. We did want to leave some time for questions, a little bit of Q&A, to go through some other specific things. But I wanted to kind of just in summary go through what we learned today. As we went through everything, we talked through some of the core challenges, right, that the telcos face, both in the coming years and kind of what they've gone through. What are the challenges they face with building out these data networks? 5G speeds, volume of data, the security concerns. So many of these challenges, I think, are great opportunities for them. New ways, new ecosystem threads for monetization, while also reducing costs and decreasing risks, right? And then keeping their networks secure. And these networks are now much broader than they've ever been before, because they're going all the way out to the edge. And so, you have to keep all aspects of those networks secure. And we've seen, with some of the hacking and security issues we've seen just even in the last few weeks, it's been a bit of a challenge to keep networks secure, and that becomes even more important as all that data is real-time data out at the edge of those networks. So all of this requires new approaches, new ways of looking at the existing infrastructure, new features and functionalities, and intelligently replicated data. Our perspective is, as David said, DataStax is really kind of an ideal solution for digital transformation and data monetization in this 5G edge, multi-cloud world, as if Cassandra had been, conceived from a concept of what would a 5G, data monetization infrastructure need to look like, years before 5G even came about. The last thing we talked about is, Astra's easy. I think just watching David, run through this, hopefully those of you who signed up, and we see that a couple of you have, you've seen how easy it is to kickstart your development over the top of these databases. And finally, we talked about some use cases from telcos all over the world, OSS, BSS, 5G, IoT. Hopefully, you learned something that was somewhat enjoyable today. We appreciate your time. We appreciate that you're here. And with that, I think we'll go ahead and open it up to any questions that anyone else has. And so we'll go to the chat and see if there's any questions that come out. And if so, we'll go ahead and answer them. If not, we'll go ahead and close. Let's see, any other questions?
Cool. Oh, there were, before we need to, does dynamically to and how do we base throughput level?
Yeah, I think, Sharon, your voice broke up, but I think I got what you were asking. So Astra can scale dynamically, and the platform, as I was saying, is serverless. So as you start deploying, more applications and they require more data coming in that needs to be stored, the peak volumes, according to that, this environment scale up automatically. That means you will have a basic, infrastructure as you begin, or there's something that you will set up. And then as requirements come in, because this platform is built on top of our Kubernetes technology, it'll automatically scale up and scale down as your peak throughput volumes reduce. The second part was how do we determine base throughput level? When we start the journey of building this platform, we realize that there has to be some guardrail set in so that people don't suddenly have a crazy amount of build. So we have put some rate limiters. So what we will do as we begin the POC, typically with the developers, is that we will ask them what are the base throughput levels. We will do a test around understanding what the requirements are, and we will set that base limit so that there is a certain benchmark available before you can scale up. Sharon, any other questions?
All right.
If there's no other questions, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, questions.
Well, if there's no other questions, we'll go ahead and close. Again, we appreciate your time. Appreciate that you were here today with us. Hopefully you learned something, and hopefully you have some interest in something that we're doing. David and I both have put our Calendly invites out there. If you want 10-15 minutes to chat through, we'd love to kind of hear what your issues and needs are, and hopefully be able to answer some of your questions and help you drive further in terms of your applications. Thank you for joining all over the world. We appreciate you, and have a great day or evening wherever you are.
Thank you, guys.